Toto Wolff has just revealed Mercedes' plans for their W15 Challenger. And when the car rolls up on the track in February, we'll see a hugely different beast to what we've seen Mercedes sporting over the last 2 years. In any case, Wolff adds that his team's development strategy for next season will be more than ambitious. Will Mercedes finally be able to crack the code on the current regulations? Stick around to find out. Although they're optimistic, Mercedes has a long way to go, with the season finale in Abu Dhabi emphasizing Red Bull's superiority. Despite being challenged on Saturday qualifying, Max Verstappen's dominance in race trim was unrivaled in 2023. Hamilton's attempts in COTA demonstrated the German constructor's occasional potential. However, his post-race disqualification and the RB19's following race victories dampened any hopes of Mercedes grabbing a victory. Toto Wolff is optimistic that the squad can reclaim its place in the victory column after its first winless season since 2011. In concept, the previous 12 months have been an adjustment phase to prepare for a large step over the winter. Toto Wolff reflected on what must be done and explains how Red Bull will be outrun next year, and how Mercedes has found itself in a vicious circle. In terms of the season off track, the sport is doing extremely well commercially, Wolff said. From a team principal's role, the sporting side has been tough because last year, for a long time, we didn't understand why our car was so bad. But this year, albeit it was not so much fishing in the dark, but we couldn't capitalize in terms of race results. I think particularly in Austin, we could have had a win, but we made mistakes. We had an off weekend in Brazil where we can absolutely reconstruct what happened, and it is not what would happen to a top team. We also had the quickest car in Singapore, but the results don't show it. But it was a year of, let's say, moving forward with the car and understanding for next year. The stopwatch never lies, and we will see next year in Bahrain. We will have a different chassis, different aerodynamics, different characteristics, different suspension, and everything that we can change. We are going to change. So far, the results in the virtual world are positive, but we need to be careful in terms of managing our expectations. We need such a step in order to catch up to fight for a championship, but obviously if you make a radical step, that means lots of new knowledge. But Red Bull is catchable, even if it takes a while, as was the case with Mercedes from 2014 to 2021. But this year, Red Bull found themselves in a position to switch off the development tabs early in the season, because the 2023 crowns were secured far before they were in Japan and Qatar. When addressing Red Bull, Wolff mentioned this, as well as the concept that as the ground effects rules mature, Red Bull will be left with a shrinking development pool in which to swim, which in part allowed it to catch up and take on the Brackley squad in 2021. I'm sure that Red Bull has probably switched off. There is no such thing as switching off completely, but they will have started next year's car way ahead of everybody else, Wolff said. If we were in this situation, looking at our historic strategy, we would probably be all hands on deck by July on next year's car. That is a month and a half earlier than we did for 2024, so when you calculate the gains that you make alone in aero, you are talking a couple of tenths. You get out of the blocks in a good way, you are leading, you are the benchmark, you understand the car, you're adding performance, like if you put an aero update on the car and it materializes like you're expecting it to, and then you are in the lead by half a second. We've been there in 2019, 2020, and then you are in a cycle of positiveness where you're gaining an advantage, and this is one of the headwinds that we're having at the moment. You have the laws of diminishing returns, your development or performance curve flattens, that is clear. The more mature the regulations are, the more you can extract, and maybe our development curve is steeper because we are behind, but that is industrial theory, and whether you can apply it to the world of sports, I'm not quite sure. Red Bull's engineering team has just done a good job. They came out of the blocks, for whatever reason, much better than everybody else, and they have a driver who is on top of his game. Even though they've done a better job than everybody else, Toto Wolff, James Allison and their technological team are certainly taking chances in order to overtake Red Bull. Despite anticipation that Mercedes W15 will have more like the Red Bull concept than merely hefty side pods, James Allison claims the idea has absolutely nothing to do with the car. When two very different appearing cars lined up on the Bahrain Grand Prix in March 2022, Mercedes heading down the zero-pod road and Red Bull with the bulky downwash philosophy, it was evident one vehicle would win. That was the Red Bull, with the RB18 winning 17 of 22 Grand Prix and the championship double, until its descendant, the RB19, outperformed it with 21 victories in 22 races, the championship double, and a 1-2 in the drivers' standings. In stark contrast, Mercedes W13 won just one Grand Prix, causing the team to abandon the Zero Pods in favour of a more Red Bull-like appearance for the updated W14, which failed to win a single race. Mercedes' technical director Allison has offered a non-committal response to the matter, leading to predictions of convergence, with Christian Horner anticipating more of the 2024 cars to appear close to the Bull design. These things are such philosophical conversations, but to the mind of a designer or a performance person in Formula One, concept is actually nothing to do with the car, he said. Nothing whatsoever to do with the car. It's about a process by which you decide what good looks like and what bad looks like. It's your methodology for sorting out all the many things you might put on the car and finding only the ones that you really think are going to add lap time. It's a method. The car itself is just the output of that method. So when you talk to us about concepts, we're hearing like what you think our wind tunnel weighting system wasn't right and we've changed that. Or our way of measuring CFD, computational fluid dynamics, was wrong and we've changed the concept of that. That's what concept means to us. And the car just pops out of the far side of that when we apply that process and that concept. So of course, the last 2 years have required us to adjust our approach and our methodology, our concept if you will. And as a result of that, the hardware that pops out the far side of that will necessarily be different hardware because it's defined by different decisions and different weightings of what's important and what isn't. And it isn't just the higher-ups at Mercedes that are very excited about the W15's future, as Lewis Hamilton says he has full faith in his Mercedes Formula One team after seeing next year's W15 in the wind tunnel during a season-ending visit. Hamilton visited both the racing team in Brackley and the HPP engine division in Brixworth on Thursday for a last 2023 debrief before departing for his winter holiday. He describes the atmosphere in the camp as positive, after the team finished second in the Constructors' Championship despite a challenging season with no victories. "I've been very busy," said Hamilton. "It's been a long year, but just tying up all the loose ends, working with the team. I was at the team yesterday just thanking everyone for the amazing work they've done throughout the year. It's a special time of the year, you're winding down and you're seeing where we're going next." When asked what mood he'd found at the factory, he said, "The mood is very positive. I think all the members in the team are incredibly grateful to have got second in the Constructors given the challenges that we faced this season, and so it's always quite emotional. And I've been with the team for such a long time, but every time you go back to Brixworth and Brackley and you're reminded of just how big a team is pushing you forward from behind. And you see every individual, some people that are new to the team that have joined whilst I've been here, and some that have been way before, and also some that have worked on my engine since my first Grand Prix in F1. It's amazing to see just the progress and the growth. And also our team is becoming more and more diverse, which has been really pleasing for me to see, that we are moving in the right direction." Hamilton used to pay a visit to check on the work of next year's W15. However, he claimed it was difficult to give a fair assessment of where the team is with the new car. "I think it's always difficult," he said. "I'm not an engineer or a designer, so it's not easy. It's always the exciting time of the year because I have seen the car in the wind tunnel. I always go by the wind tunnel when I go to the factory to see it evolving in whichever direction it ends up going. Literally, when I was leaving yesterday again, I popped in just to see where we were, and when I come back, it will be again a different animal. I have full faith in everyone that's working on it, and I'm hopeful that we will be in a much more competitive position next year." Hamilton acknowledged that the 2023 season was difficult, with the team understanding from the first run with the W14 that it wouldn't be a title-winning car. But next year should be different, at least that's what they're betting on over at Mercedes. But what about you? Are you also believing in Mercedes' dream for next year? Will they be able to challenge Red Bull next year? And if so, will Lewis Hamilton be the one fighting for the title? Or will George Russell surprise us all in his third season at Mercedes? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below.